To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Dreamers of all ages, welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andee Zilmerman.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Aldee. Is that our new intro?
It is our new intro.
A new intro for the 100th episode.
Disney's new intro. I can't say that I made it up because that is what we are saying. Dreamers of all ages. And actually, that's been going on for about a year.
I thought we were going with to all who come to this happy place, welcome. But I guess
that's already said in our intro with Walt. You want me to repeat what he says?
Yeah, it's Walt.
Welcome. This is our 100th episode. Yay! We
never thought it would last.
100. Well,
we have more episodes than listeners. It's funny because it's true.
It's funny because it's true, actually. But we have a good little group of duelists on our Facebook page that I just love, and you guys are just making all of that so fun for me. And thank you for answering my silly questions and piping in with your comments and letting us know how you're doing too. So that makes me happy. So if you're not already on there, go to Facebook, go to the Dueling Disney Community Duelist Group page. I will let you in. One of us will let you in if you want to join our happy group. And so that's it. So 100th episode. Let's start off by talking about our Disney week. What is your Disney week?
Okay, so my Disney week this week. I buy a lot of stuff, not as much as I would like, but as much as I can afford, from this company called Sideshow Collectibles that does a lot of like cool things. If you look behind me, you can see a Robin the Boy Wonder Sideshow collectible piece right there, and a bunch of other stuff. There's Mickey here, but he's not Sideshow Collectibles. I just got him at the park and I love him. But I had some rewards points expiring. And so I went and bought a Sideshow Collectibles 1 in 6 R2-D2 that has like blinking lights and all kinds of doohickeys and gadgets and all sorts of things because it's really cool. And it's just the way I am. Because I got the R2-D2, I know at some point, probably right after, I'll get the C-3PO. Because what are you going to have? R2's just sitting there by himself. No, you got to have C-3PO from Sideshow Collectibles. And I spend so much money at Sideshow Collectibles.
I didn't know they had like a rewards program.
Oh, yeah. That's what suckers you in. You buy something, and then when it gets shipped, you get like 5% back in rewards. So you always have like a little reward to spend. You're like, well, I want to spend this reward, so let me buy the next thing, because otherwise these rewards go to waste. And then you get something, and then you get a little more rewards, and you go, well, let me buy the next. It's an insidious circle, but I'm in it, and I've been in it for years and years and years and years. But they have a ton of stuff. Most of the stuff I get there is DC Comics stuff because, as you can tell, I love DC Comics. But they have a ton of Marvel stuff, ton of Star Wars stuff, quite a few Disney things. There was a Disney Pinocchio figure there that I've really had my eye on for a while, and I came close, very, very close to using my rewards points on that. I still might use some of my rewards points on that, but it's so similar to well, because it's really similar. I don't know if you remember years ago when we were in college, I used to have this Pinocchio figurine that my brother Daniel broke. I love you, Daniel, but
yes. Oh my gosh, I totally remember that. I forgot, but now I remember.
Daniel, I love you, but and so it looks a lot like that. So my brain was like, you already have this, but then later on my brain was like, well, you don't have that. Daniel broke it. And so I thought about it. Wow. This one I think is in wood. I could be wrong. But I love Pinocchio, and I have nothing Pinocchio in my house.
I know. It's really surprising.
I know, right? Like, I just realized it recently. Like, I got a ton of stuff, but just no Pinocchio. So most of my collectibles, my Disney collectibles these days are Mickey and Disneyland Park. So I might go back and get a Pinocchio for that. But my Disney week is about spending way too much money on something that no one but me thinks is cool, but I think it's cool. So I'm really happy.
That's true. Well, we do have that. I mean, I can't see spending money on those things because I just want to go places.
Right.
So that's where my money goes.
Look,
of course,
and I want to go home. I mean, I think if anybody has listened to this podcast this long, they know that my greatest desire is just, can I just go home? I want to go home. And when I get home, I want to look at cool stuff that I have.
That's true. You do that. That's insanely true. My Disney week was not happy at all. And I'm sorry, but it's true. This is what I did all Disney week was focus on freaking Ron DeSantis in Florida and the whole I can't, you guys.
I have told you not to do this.
I know, but I can't. It's the stupidity. And I'm wondering how many of our listeners, well, by this time, you probably already know what Reedy Creek is.
Right.
If you listen to this, the news, on the off chance that you haven't, Disney has Reedy Creek, and it is part of something that Walt set up in 1967. And so from 1967, they kind of self-governed in the way that all municipal things are taken.
They basically have their own city, so they pay taxes to the state, but most of the stuff they do themselves, like roads and bridges and infrastructure.
Fire station, they have their own fire station, they have their own electric grid, all that kind of stuff. They are their own city. And remember, for those of you who don't, well, if you're listening to this podcast, you know, but as I was talking to other people who aren't Disneyfied this week, I mean, they're shocked to hear that Disney World is the size of San Francisco. Like that blows their mind. They're like, well, I went to Disney World and I didn't remember it being that big. I'm like, okay, it's the land of Disney World that's the size of San Francisco. But
look, I go to San Francisco fairly frequently. San Francisco's not that big either. That's the other thing. You can pretty much walk most of San Francisco. Yeah.
It's still, it's big. Anyway, and so for DeSantis to throw a little temper tantrum.
Well, and it's all political, but here's the thing. This might be controversial on this podcast, but I don't feel that bad for a mega company with billions of dollars to lose something that was helping them. I do feel bad for the local people who are now going to have to now absorb the cost of these political machinations. Because for Disney, it's going to be annoying and it's going to take longer to get stuff, but it's not like they're going to be shutting down Disney World. And I feel bad because it is literally the government attacking free speech, right? That I feel bad about. What I feel most bad about is the money that Disney was paying to taxes to cover that infrastructure, but then covering themselves is now going to, by law, I have to be covered by other people. And Disney actually saves money on the thing.
Disney does save money, but here's what, okay, let me tell you all what I'm afraid might happen. First of all, we don't even really know if this will go through. It's supposed to go through July 23.
And I would expect there would be some lawsuits.
I am sure there's going to be held up in court. So let's okay, just yes, I understand that it might not even happen. Let's say it does and it goes through. One of the things, okay, first world, I get it. But one of the things that I love about Walt Disney World is that when I get onto the property and you see the blue or the purple highway signs and the roads are just like fantastic. And you are already in a make-believe world as soon as you drive onto their highway system, on their roads. Now, there's no potholes, right? They take care of those things. And there's
Let me tell you, the only thing I like about Florida is Disney World and Key West. Other than that...
But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to go onto Disney World property and have there be potholes or, run down roads or whatever they think the highway signs need to be. Do they need to match with the rest of the counties? It just kind of freaks me out a little bit. And that's what Disneyland is, right? So you go to Disneyland and you have California. It's not Disneyfied by any means. It's definitely California. And that's what Walt Disney wanted. He's like, okay, I want something better. And so he went, and yes, they're a corporation and yes, they get the tax cuts, and Disney has been giving money to the GOP in Florida forever.
The GOP and the Democratic Party. Disney, just like all corporations, gives money to everybody so they can continue to say, hey, we supported you, so let's extend Mickey Mouse's copyright another 95 years, huh?
Yeah, you guys, and you know it. You've been listening to the news or watching the news, and I did something stupid, and I went on the Fox News website.
What?
So I could see what? I know. I never go on Fox News, but I wanted to see what people were commenting. Like, were they really saying, "Oh no, But they don't know. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They know what Fox News tells them, and I get it.
I only watch
get it.
Fox News in the dentist office because for some reason every dentist office turns on Fox News. I don't know why. It's weird.
Not mine.
Well, you live in Portland.
Jose. Yeah, that's true. But oh God, oh no, I would never go to I don't want them in my mouth if they're watching Fox News.
They're not watching it. I honestly think what happens. I've asked this before at my dentist office. They turn on the TV in the morning. They know that Fox News is not really what most people like. But the people who like Fox News go in and change it to Fox News, and they just don't have time to keep changing the TV. I literally asked this, not at my current dentist office, but at the dentist office before. And they were like, yeah, it's so annoying.
I couldn't do it. Okay. Anyway.
Welcome to the Fox News, anti-Fox News podcast. We've gone a bit far afield.
As if I know. All right. So because of that, and yeah, so that's just it's not very happy. Sorry guys, but that has been my Disney week. I've been 100% following that since it started, a week and a half ago, whatever. Angry. So you are going to lead us in on our topic.
You know today. Why? Because this is our 100th episode, and we needed to do something special for our 100th episode.
We did.
And you know what we're going to do for our 100th episode? I mean, because we talk about this before we start. But in general, our listeners do not know. Our viewers do not know. And yes, they are viewers because
they are viewers now.
We are going to talk for our 100th episode about a very famous Disney personality, someone who I love deeply. We're going to hear how Andee feels about them. The star of our show, the center of the ring, the leader of the club that's made for you and me. 100 episodes. We're talking about Mickey Mouse today.
Hiya, pal. I think when it comes to Mickey, to me, it's just an amazing thing what they've been able to do with him. He started off as Walt's best pal, and it's amazing how we've been able to become best pals with him now, and just, being able to see not just what Walt wanted for him, but what he wanted for the parks and everything around. So, Mickey's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Mickey Mouse.
Yay.
I love Mickey Mouse. I love Mickey Mouse in all his problematic glory. But how do you feel about Mickey Mouse? What are your feelings towards Mickey, specifically Mickey the character? Mickey Mouse first appeared in Steamboat Willie in 1928. Although Gallopin' Gauchos and Plain Crazy were produced before, it's a whole thing. But what do you think about Mickey?
When I think about Mickey Mouse, I think the thing that I love most is that he is such an icon for everyone around the world. Like, he's the face of happiness for everyone around the world. Even if you haven't been to Disney or you don't know that much about Disney, you see that silhouette of a Mickey head and you just instantly know, like, there's a smile that comes across your face. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what language you speak, doesn't matter where you are in the world. Pretty much universally, everyone knows who Mickey Mouse is.
This is confess your unpopular opinion. He's never been my favorite. That being said, I have his silhouette tattooed on my ankle. So I am in love with the icon of Mickey
as a representation of Disney in general.
Yes, but we are talking right now about the character of Mickey.
So what is it about Mickey? Do you find Mickey dull, boring,
irritating?
Really?
Irritating.
How was Mickey irritating?
Some shorts. He's so, and it's not just Walt's voice because it continued on, but that high pitched little, I don't know. It's just,
oh boy.
Yes, exactly. I liked Mickey. Let's start out. Okay. So let's start from the early 20s or the late 20s. I'm sorry. When he started with Steamboat Willie and everything. And that, to me, I appreciate the animation, but he's just kind of creepy. Okay,
I watched that like literally 20 minutes before we started recording, and he just it's all animal abuse that short. It's just all Mickey beating up on farm animals for like 10 minutes.
It's just kind of, and I get that. Okay, I get it, and everything. So I appreciate the animation and all that. I really did like Mickey in the, I want to say, early 40s. Right? Like 40s Mickey. That's my favorite time period of him. He's kind of mean sometimes. Like to Pluto. He doesn't treat Pluto very nice all the time. kind of bothers me. And then as the decades went on, I don't know. I remember my kids watching, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and everything, and just sort of irritating. Now,
interesting.
I will say,
I don't know if you realize this. You host a podcast called Dueling Disney. So this is fairly controversial.
Let me duel it. I will now duel it. Okay, so let's keep going. So then you have the animation of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse that our kids were watching. And that's again, back to irritating for me.
Yeah, I would agree with those years where it's just like really super like young kid focused, where it's like cartoons in the golden age of animation were sort of meant for not only kids, but adults. And then the young kid version where you're just like, I have nothing to connect with. Yeah.
Do that. I will say that when they just came out with the shorts, brand new shorts,
right? The current
kind of emulate, and they kind of wanted to emulate like the early shorts of the
a little more wacky, 40s. A little more,
Yes, I actually kind of think they're funnier. They're along that line of the 30s and 40s Mickey. They're a little bit funnier for me to watch. So I don't mind those as much. So I guess if you had to like take Mickey through the years, that is the time period, the very short time period. It's funny. They're funny. I don't know, like if you've watched them all or anything. I love that they bring in all of them.
Yeah.
They like bring in other animation from other movies kind of in them. Like, they just pass through a scene and there's like Cinderella and the Prince.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah. Well,
so those I think are funny.
And one of the things you note is sort of the evolution of Mickey over the years through animation. And one of the things I think that happened to Mickey is Mickey became this huge star right off the bat with the first sound cartoon, right? So that's one of the things that if you don't know your Disney history, they short version, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, who is now again a Disney character, but for a long time was owned by Universal. Walt and his brother and the company and Ub and all those guys were producing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and went for a meeting in New York, was told by the producer that, yes, we own Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And we've also hired your animators directly. So Walt, we don't actually need you anymore. So even though, you've still got a couple of those Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoons to produce under your old contract, but after that, we're done with you. So Walt then on the train ride back, allegedly, and we're going to get to that, came up with another character called Mortimer Mouse, which his wife Lillian said, that's a terrible name. How about Mickey? And created Mickey Mouse. They had produced, basically, the way I understand the story is Walt and Ub were producing the first 3 Mickey Mouse cartoons at night and on weekends. And Ub pretty much animated all 3 of those first cartoons, which were in order: Plain Crazy, Gallopin' Gaucho, and Steamboat Willie, on evenings and weekends in Walt's garage. Walt by this time had sort of passed into not doing animation, but producing. He was a very talented creative guy, but Ub was way better than him at animation. And so they produced the first 2 cartoons. And when the third one came along, someone came and said, hey, Walt, we have sound. We could do a sound cartoon. So Walt worked hard to add sound to the third cartoon, released the third cartoon first while they were working to add sound to the first 2 cartoons. And lo and behold, the whole world exploded. Mickey Mouse became an international movie star. But one of the things that came along with that is the fame of Mickey Mouse eventually created the situation where Mickey Mouse became the face of the company. And the face of the company, as you talked about Steamboat Willie, can't be doing the things that Mickey was doing in those early cartoons. So the Mickey Mouse cartoons themselves became more and more dull over time. Characters like Donald, characters like Goofy, then sort of come in, and because they're not the face of the company, can do other things. Goofy can do silly slapsticky stuff and be real stupid. Donald can be all anger, like pure id. And those cartoons are generally much more satisfying to watch than the Mickey cartoons, because the Mickey cartoons had to be safe. And if you look at the better Mickey cartoons, the Mickey cartoons didn't start really getting good until you added Pluto. And really, if you look at a lot of those Mickey Mouse cartoons after that, they're really Pluto cartoons where Mickey just plays the straight man. So one of the challenges that came out was that Mickey became the face of the company and therefore became sanitized. And then over the years, just everything was about Mickey, and you could still sell a ton of Mickey Mouse merchandise, but the core cartoons just weren't terribly funny. Before this, like I said, I watched Steamboat Willie, which was still pretty funny. I laughed. I watched a later Pluto Mickey cartoon, which Pluto was really funny, but Mickey was not. They didn't even try to make Mickey funny. He was just the guy who owned Pluto. And then I watched sort of some really sort of 80s, 90s-ish stuff. And it was just dull as paste. Like Mickey is not the interesting character in those. So really what you're talking about is like the evolution of a corporate icon from a character. But I do like the new ones, and the new ones are actually pretty good for folks who haven't watched them. They're available on Disney Plus, like everything else under God's green earth.
True that.
Although I will say one of the things that annoys me and has annoyed me about Disney Plus from the beginning is if you're a fan of cartoon shorts, they're really hard to navigate to. You can't just go to a section that says cartoon shorts, Mickey, show me all the Mickey Mouse cartoon shorts. That doesn't exist on Disney Plus, which seems like, are you kidding me? That seems to be the first thing you should do with Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's fair. And I love the you were talking a little bit about UB. I don't know how many people know about UB iWorks coming over with Disney, forever. Growing up, when I used to see Disney movies in the theater, my best childhood friend Rima, we would have this stupid game when the credits were coming on in the beginning. Whoever spotted UB's name first,
UB.
So we UB. That's how we played the UB iWorks game. But just like finding out, like in later years, the UB like had mostly everything to do with animation.
Yeah, UB pretty much designed the visual look of Mickey, right? Like when you look at those Disney documentaries, they show a hand drawing it, and they sort of say it like it's Walt on the train. It wasn't Walt on the train; it was UB when he got home. And there's actually a great documentary about UB iWorks that his daughter produced. I think it's called The Hand Behind the Mouse, the UB iWorks story. And Disney actually produced it too. So they're it's one of the things where people often talk about how, Walt stole Disney from UB and didn't want him to be known. I don't think that's true. I watched Steamboat Willie today, and it said a Walt Disney comic by UB iWorks. So if he was hiding it, I don't know that would have been sort of in the literally the first slide says by UB iWorks. So I don't know that Walt went out of his way to be like correcting people when they said he created Mickey, but I also don't know that they were actively hiding UB's contributions.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And Disney always had the what am I trying to say? Reputation of being the storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe that is just where they thought the big ideas were coming from, even though UB was the artist,
Right.
The better artist. But Walt was the storyteller. Do you know where we can find that documentary? I know that one's not.
Is it not on Disney Plus?
I don't think. Did you say Hand Behind the Mouse?
The Hand Behind the Mouse, the UB iWorks story. You can rent it or buy it on Amazon. I might have just bought it on iTunes. I know I've watched a lot
of that. You buy a lot of things on iTunes.
I know I'm weird. Before like the streaming era, I have tons of iTunes movies. Mm-hmm. It's produced by Disney, so I'm shocked if it's not on Disney Plus. But I'm looking at it on Amazon right now, and I have seen it because it was one of my favorite. Disney does a lot of documentaries, and I'm a sucker for them. So it was one of my favorite Disney documentaries. I always like the stories of the people who involved. It's like just one of my things, but it's definitely on Amazon. I'm pretty sure it's on iTunes. I'm shocked it's not on Disney Plus, but I believe you.
Well, I love Mickey. Mickey is the epitome of what the everyday modern day man is. What I like about him is he's inspirational. Now he's funny. He's sort of like the glue of the whole Disney company. He's the one that inspires everyone to stay together.
So what about all these rumors that like Disney started from racist beginnings?
I mean, right? Here's a thing. This is tough for me. And I tell you why. Because I think we have proved, if anything on this podcast, that you and I are not afraid of sort of wrestling with some of the problematic aspects of Disney. Even though it's one of my favorite songs, the crows in Dumbo are really racist caricatures. There's no question. Song of the South. Oh boy. It's a problem. I would even say the cherubs, who you can never find in current versions of Fantasia, but were definitely in the original, were definitely racist caricatures. So I think we have maybe proved our willingness to engage sort of the problematic aspects of Disney. And I will say, I don't think it's, so here's the argument. The argument is that Mickey Mouse, like many early cartoon characters, comes from they're sort of a permutation of an old character that was popular in minstrel shows in the late 1800s in vaudeville called the Coon, which was a racist, extremely racist, racist, like racist in a way we don't even appreciate anymore, character of Black people, right? Big lips, lazy, all kinds of stuff. Like there's anybody who wants to argue that with me, you're not even worth my time. And there's an argument that, the Coon character begat Little Black Sambo, begat Felix the Cat, begat Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, begat
I didn't
Mickey.
even think about Felix the Cat.
One of my faculty members who's on my committee, Darnell DeGan, and we can put it on our Instagram, has a really interesting piece of art on his website that sort of has all these characters sitting at a table. And at the end are the really extreme racist caricatures, and you put sort of Oswald and Felix and Mickey sort of at the center.
Wow.
And so it's not unrelated, right? I'm not going to argue that it's unrelated. The question for me has always been, at what point does a character evolve to the point where even if it's founded in a racist caricature, it's changed so much that even if racism is at its core, is it really sending that same message? The reason I say that with Mickey is one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about this is I went and watched the early Mickey cartoons. I kept watching them just to sort of see, okay, so what do I think? And here's the thing. I do think it's probably no question that sort of the evolution of cartoons in the early days of animation definitely came from minstrelsy. Partially is why all cartoon characters wear those white gloves. In addition to sort of some animation reasons around defining hand movements, it also comes with the history of minstrel shows with the white gloves, Mammy, right? But I was looking at the first cartoon where Mickey started, Steamboat Willie. I was looking at the first time where he spoke. And for me, can it be a racist caricature itself if if the character isn't embodying those stereotypes? And the reason I say that is from the beginning, Mickey's voiced by Walt himself.
Right.
He's not intending, are Walt and the other animators intending for Mickey's good friend of mine who married a crazy redhead, a whole other story. But was the intent of the animators for people to receive this character as Black? And I don't think it was, because they would have used a different voice. And one of the reasons I bring up the other sort of racist caricatures that Disney used is because that tells me they knew the difference. That if they had intended Mickey to be a Black caricature, he would have spoken that sort of Black pidgin and he would have behaved as such. And he didn't. I don't think that the Disney artists were intending this to be a minstrel character or a racist caricature. And it's sort of damning with faint praise because they did other racist stuff. And so it's a weird defense to say, no, this one wasn't racist. These other ones were super racist. But I think is Mickey based in minstrelsy? Yeah, I don't think you can argue that it's not. Was Mickey himself a racist caricature? I think by the time Mickey showed up, it had evolved so far past the racist caricature that it didn't have those tropes associated with those stereotypes. So as a Black person, I've never read Mickey as Black. Well, I occasionally read Mickey as Black when I'm down in some of the swamp meets in LA and I see a Black Mickey in a hoodie sweatshirt. I love those. Those are awesome. I'll bring you one next time I'm coming from LA. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm not the person to ask. I don't know. Like, I would always say no, but you know what? I mean, no, I've been white my whole life, believe it or not.
Really?
And yeah, I know.
I've been to your house. I really believe that.
Yes, I know. You've seen me grow up. So anyway, that stuff isn't on my mind. I wouldn't see it. You know what I mean? Unless it's like right in my face. I wouldn't see it. And yes, the crows in Dumbo are racist, but did I see that until I was way older?
I started thinking about these matters. Yeah.
Yeah, and which I didn't ever beforehand. So no, I wouldn't have thought it was racist, but I also wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you, listeners, the number of racist things that have happened around me that Andee's never seen. I could just tell you.
It's amazing.
I mean, the stuff she's done. Let's just start there. Oh my! No, I'm kidding.
It's true.
It was all unintentional, and I've given a lot of grace.
Of course, it was unintentional, but I still to this day make mistakes. I mean, I'm trying, but oh my goodness, like no, there's just
and again, I don't want it to be misread as me forgiving because I love Mickey, but I really thought about this. And again, I think that for me, the biggest point of discussion is it possible to evolve beyond a racist character, or does the roots in racism always taint that character? I could make an argument both ways.
It'd be interesting. I think I wonder sometimes, if Walt was still alive, what kind of question? Oh, what would he think about today? I mean, just the journalism questions that come through today, or the talk about race and stuff today. It would be interesting to see.
Well, he'd be almost 120, so I don't know that. I mean, we can compare him to other 120
years. If he were alive today,
he would be like 120 years old.
I don't know.
I think if Walt was alive today, he would want his applesauce.
Sure. My God. Okay, you know what I meant. Anyway, I don't know. There's a lot. But as far as that's what I'm saying, like as far as being racist or seeing that in Mickey's character, I never did. Even somebody else had to say something for me to notice, right? Well, and here's the thing, and this thing about these arguments is if after we finish recording this, somebody makes the opposite argument, they could be right. I own the fact that I love Mickey Mouse and I love Disney, and so maybe I'm trying to justify it, but I think the counter to that is I ain't justifying Song of the South. I ain't justifying the Crows and Dumbo, even though I really like that song. Like, I ain't justifying the Cherubs and Fantasia. I just genuinely think this is different. I'd be very curious. Monkeys in the Jungle Book.
Or the Monkeys in the Jungle Book. Although Louis Prima wasn't black. So anyway, but Louis Prima was aping the tropes of black culture. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Wait, King Louis wasn't black?
I have never read Louis Prima as a black man, but we should find out. That might be a question for another.
I didn't.
He did I actually really like Louis Prima as a singer songwriter.
No, you're right.
Yeah. But it was rooted. His stuff was rooted in New Orleans jazz, which is rooted in black culture. So it's still cultural appropriation. It's like folks doing the African-American vernacular nowadays, the folks, it's the same thing. So I would think that the monkeys in Jungle Book are problematic. Yeah.
Okay.
I just talked myself into it. I just don't see the same in Mickey. Particularly, I think the thing I'm tied to is the presentation of Mickey never, to my knowledge, and I haven't seen every single thing, didn't really invoke those tropes of the minstrelsy and racism. That being said, the look of the character definitely evolved from significantly racist origins. Like there's no question about that in my mind. And so, it's still a controversial component. But I do like Louis Prima, even though, like a lot of modern American, almost all American music is rooted in black music in cultural appropriation. So what are you going to do? Except maybe like grunge. I don't really understand grunge. Didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense to me. Like take a shower, you hippie, huh?
That's true. Oh, but Eddie Vedder. Oh, I love some Eddie Vedder.
I really like Mickey Mouse. I think he's such an iconic character. Disney really created something special with Mickey, and everything about him just reminds me, it reminds me of my best memories. It reminds me of home. It reminds me of spending time at Disney. Just the colors or the voice. It's all tapping into that little magical childhood part of me.
How do you feel? And this is really about emotion, right? We go to the parks, and I noticed this, and we have an ongoing sort of bit on the show about like you being like, those are the characters and don't pretend like they aren't. And me being like, oh, there's a teenager in a costume, right? Yeah. I will say it's different with Mickey for me.
Really?
It's something about Mickey. So my question is, as you said, you're not a huge fan of the Mickey cartoons, and your love of Mickey is more about the corporate icon. But when you go to, and I'm thinking specifically of your and Ed's engagement. I'm thinking of specifically like other times we've met Mickey in the park. When you go to the park, and I feel different when I see Mickey than when I see other characters, right?
Okay.
When you go to the park and you see Mickey, what is that feeling? Is it about the whole corporation, or is it about him?
I really, really do love the character of Mickey when I see him at the parks. I don't know how to explain this.
I mean, that's one of the reasons, because I know you, and I feel different about Mickey when I see him at the parks. It's the one character that I'm like, well, no, that's Mickey.
You're gonna think I'm funny. Everybody's gonna say I'm already psycho. When I see
We've got
Mickey in the park, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed to admit this.
Other podcast about that.
I know. I'm embarrassed to admit this. Okay. But this is how I feel when I see Mickey in the park.
Hey, there's no wrong way to feel.
I think, oh my God.
Hey, it's the truth. The truth shall set you free.
Okay. I think of him like the boss of the whole thing. And so when I see Mickey, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is yours. Like, thank you. Like, shut up.
It's fine. You're not the only person that feels that way. I mean, they play with it, right? Like, this is Mickey's land, right?
And so the last time we saw Mickey, we were at the Magic Kingdom, and we went to go get our picture with him. And now this is in the time right after COVID, so we're still not in the hugging phase or anything like that, and we have to stand apart from him. But every time I see Mickey, I get a little tongue-tied. Like, I'm just so happy to be here. And
do you secretly think every Mickey that you meet is the same Mickey? Like, I know consciously that's not true, but in your, like, I do. It's a weird thing.
I have literally, the girls get so embarrassed because every time I see Mickey, every time I go, remember when Ed got down on one knee and proposed to you, or proposed to me, asking you for my hand in marriage? Remember that?
This is the insanity of Disney fandom.
Yeah.
It's a conscious insanity, right?
Yeah. So, and they're all like, oh yeah. And then they get excited, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, that happened before I was born, but oh yeah.
Well, and it's anyway, not to get too heady, but it's like connected to my dissertation right now, is you have a parasocial relationship. You and I have a parasocial relationship with Mickey, which means we have an emotional relationship that we know consciously is not true. It's not reciprocal. Yet we feel real world emotions in relation to Mickey Mouse that I don't. And my favorite Warner Brothers cartoon, or my favorite Disney cartoon, my favorite Warner Brothers cartoons are Bugs Bunny. Let's be clear. You can't beat Bugs.
What the heck?
My favorite Disney cartoons are definitely Goofy, and the how-to, all the how-to Goofy shorts. Donald right after that. Yeah. Love me some Chip and Dale, right? Like, Mickey is, in terms of the cartoons, is far down my list, but it's Mickey. It's the mouse. And I don't know if it's because I grew up watching the Mickey Mouse Club, or I have all these feelings associated, because it was always Mickey to start. And I have watched Steamboat Willie, that cartoon, more than any other single cartoon The close second being One Froggy Evening with the Warner Brothers, where the frog is singing "Hello, My Baby." Right?
Yes, of course. Yes, I know that. I know that about you.
It's awesome. But there's this emotional connection, and I'm wondering, particularly with you and being engaged in front of Mickey, like, can you talk a little bit about what that emotion is or feels like, or how important it is to you, or how you're like, this is insane?
Well, I'm a little bit different. Okay, first of all, I get a little bit giddy with any character, right? And so I know you don't. But like I said, Mickey, I'm just like, when I see Mickey, I'm like, thank you. I'm like, okay, here's the boss, here's the head honcho. He's the one that's in charge of everything that makes me happy.
So,
right?
so if they're out of popcorn and you see Mickey, you go, hey, Mickey, can we get somebody on the
he's the guy, right?
Yeah, sure.
He's the guy. So now, would I have been that excited if I went to Disneyland in 1955 and saw that Mickey walking around? That would scare the crap out of me.
I don't think it would. I think within the context, you would have been.
Maybe you're right. Yeah. Maybe you're
right.
Remember,
that would be the only live action Mickey you would familiar with.
That's so creepy.
It's super creepy now.
I'll tell you what was creepy, and they took it away, was when Mickey talked to you.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Flipping creepy. I did not like that either. That. I'm like, just keep your mouth shut. I'm good with this. Okay. I'm good with this. So, yeah, but I get very excited about all the characters. And I was even going to say, Emma works there at Disneyland now. She was walking to work one day and she was like, oh my God, Mom, I saw Belle. She's like, Belle was right there, right in front of me.
And you're like, you work there.
I know, but I'm just saying, maybe this has been passed down to my offspring.
Yeah, well, I was there when you were doing it, so I don't know why you're surprised. You literally, you transferred the Disney cult directly.
It was, and Ed is like, what the heck? But Ed has no room to talk. Ed is just as much a part of the cult, even though he doesn't say so. So yeah, I don't know. I get excited, and I get excited when I see Mickey, and not as excited to see Minnie or Daisy. Daisy doesn't do it for me. Donald.
Minnie was in the Steamboat Willie cartoon.
I know. Right?
So was Peg Leg Pete, right? They were there at the beginning.
Do you think, well, this is going into other characters too. What's interesting to me about Mickey and his friends are how their personalities change over the years.
Yeah.
Okay. Like sometimes I'm like, Minnie, like get a grip. Mm-hmm. Most of the cartoons that the kids were watching when they were younger, when the 5 were in those, I was like, I didn't like those times. Like they were mean, like Daisy's mean and Minnie can be catty. And that's not happy for me.
Well, and they reflect sort of the attitudes of the people that were making them, right? Like those were like, what were they, like 90s, early 2000? Like I watched some of the cartoons from some of those eras and I'm like, oh, well, Mickey and Daisy were mean because they were men who didn't like women making them, maybe. And that's like, yes, women are mean and evil and won't go out with me, right? Like, I think that might have something to do with it. Because here's the thing, like, when we think of the classic cartoon, and we talk about the classic 5, but has Minnie ever started her own cartoon? Has Daisy? Goofy Donald and Mickey have.
I know.
Right.
And I was just looking, you know what? Actually, I was just looking on Disney Plus. I'm looking on it right now. They actually have a category now called Mickey Mouse and Friends. And if you go down, it's the wonderful world of Mickey Mouse. So they do have a lot of those cartoons. And then under that is shorts, but a lot of those are the Goofy shorts or, added in to Pluto and everything. But some of the Mickey shorts are in there.
And then how difficult is that when you go to Disney Plus to say, I'd like to watch some Mickey Mouse cartoons? Again, I know you hate when I do this, but I compare it to HBO Max. I go on HBO Max, I go to Looney Tunes, and it says 1924, 1925, right? That would be or nice. You can go Bugs Bunny, the first Bugs Bunny cartoon to the last, right? It's so easy when you compare the two services.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I did say 1940s Mickey I liked a lot, but now that I'm looking at these, I love those shorts like Prince and the Pauper.
Oh, yeah. Those were good.
I love Mickey's Christmas Carol. That's one of my favorite.
I mean, come on.
Of all time.
Right. Yeah.
Shorts of all time. So those were in the 80s, I think. So I like those too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says Fantasia is a Mickey. I wouldn't call Fantasia
Yeah,
a Mickey
Mickey's
movie.
barely
They have
in
a
it,
Mickey
right?
snippet. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and both actually. But again,
yeah.
I think when it comes to sort of the love for Mickey himself,
Mhm.
I wonder if Disney doesn't quite know what to do with it in terms of like, do we really want people watching some of these old Mickey Mouse cartoons that have some weird, like Steamboat Willie, when it came up, it said, warning, tobacco use. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh
Like
yeah, no
Pete
kidding.
takes a big chaw of tobacco and spits. Like that's a major part of the whole thing. So it's like, I wonder if Disney is like, because they're so sort of people focus on them for stuff, if they're like, I don't know that we really want to have a whole story about, we don't want Mickey canceled. So maybe we don't highlight these old cartoons.
Well, and I'm glad you actually said that, because there is one more thing about Mickey that makes things kind of weird. And I'm not talking about the character Mickey in the park. For some reason, he's all kinds of happy for me. Okay. But one thing that bothers me, and it's not Disney's fault, is the Mickey what do you say when they steal the character and they put it on the Malibu t-shirt?
Oh yeah, so all the bootleg Mickey merchandise.
Thank you, bootleg is what I was looking for. All that, even now when all the political stuff, and every time there's political stuff with Disney, they always have him in a meme or him in a political cartoon.
Yeah, Mickey's like one of the earliest memes. Yeah,
and
I
me,
hate that. Yeah,
I don't like it either.
Well, here's the thing. Disney hates it, and they have a whole building full of lawyers trying to get people to stop doing that stuff.
They do, but especially like now, there's going to be political cartoons like 100%, like over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. And then at some point very soon, we're probably going to have to do another episode about the Mickey copyright, because that's coming up to end pretty quickly. So they're in just a few years, you and I, if we wanted to make a Mickey Mouse cartoon, we're going to be able to do it, right? It's a very strange thing, but I'm curious what will happen when that sort of opens up, and what will we see in the future for Mickey as he becomes public domain, and it goes from everybody feeling like they own Mickey, but really Disney owns him, to yeah, technically it's public domain. We all will very soon own Mickey, at least the Mickey from the Steamboat Willie cartoon. Unless Disney gets it extended, I think it's 2023 that Mickey goes into.
Oh, that's soon.
Because it's 95 years. It's either 95 years from the initial piece or 95 years from the death of the author. But with corporate pieces, like I don't know how the death of the author thing works, unless Disney can, marshal its political power again and get that extended. But I think they don't necessarily have the public on their side anymore with this kind of stuff. So I would be and honestly, part of me is looking forward to somebody who just genuinely loves Mickey Mouse and has wanted to do a really good Mickey Mouse cartoon and can't. I think in addition to some weird political stuff, you're probably going to see some really awesome stuff as well.
But it won't be Disney.
It won't be Disney, but Disney's not Disney. Like the company we think of as Disney, right? The company that produced Steamboat Willie and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does not exist anymore.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Walt's not been around for a long time.
I know that. I know
Even Roy's been gone for a long time.
But they still, yes, there's a lot of corporate crap and all that stuff. But it's still the land.
Hey, they still produce stuff that I enjoy. Like, let me be 100% clear, right? I love Disney movies that come out. The Marvel movies are good, and that's hard for me to say as a DC fan. I love Star Wars. I love I still love, I won't say everything, but a good chunk of the stuff Disney produces. This isn't me saying they produce horrible stuff. It's just me saying that over the years, their goals are not the goals of Walt and Roy Sr. and the 9 old men. Like, it's just a different thing. And I think, and that's part of the sort of whole overall thing of this podcast, is us to duel not only with each other, but with sort of the Disney cult, for lack of a better term, or the Disney company or the Disney fandom. Like, it's really one of the things we're here to do. I think because I try to be a hopeful person, I know there's going to be dumb political stuff, but I also hope that there's really cool, sort of fan created stuff. I'll be honest, as a Superman fan, Superman's not in public domain, but people do Superman and Batman stuff all the time. There's a couple of really awesome Superman cartoons online that Warner Brothers and DC would never produce.
I don't want
I love them. Like,
I don't want it.
I would want to see what not somebody who's just like, wah, whatever, I hate Disney, but somebody who's like, I love Mickey Mouse and I want to do the world's best Mickey Mouse cartoon. I want to see it.
Then go work for Disney. No, I don't.
I'm just saying, I want to, if you're saying if it's really good, you don't want to see it. I'm not saying people who are bad. I'm saying somebody who really loves it and wants to do a good job.
I just want it to be. I can't imagine. I can't even imagine what that would be. Okay, I'm not good with hypotheticals.
It's coming.
So I can't imagine.
It's coming.
Okay. I don't know. Just soon. Like Disney's going to have potholes in their highways. I don't want other people to.
And marijuana distribution places on the way to.
Now it's going to be inside the parks. Right. Now Mickey's going to be on the side giving you some pot.
Look, I can get you a T-shirt in half an hour with Mickey's.
I know.
I can get that for you. It's right next to. Depressing. It's right next to where you get the Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes piano at Ford. Right, it's the same store.
I know. Oh God. Okay. Well, are you happy? Are you happy that we talked about Mickey Mouse? Does Mickey Mouse? I mean, you have Mickey Mouse. You have collectible Mickey Mouses.
I love Mickey Mouse unabashedly. I love Mickey. I love his cartoons, even though I love some of the other cartoons more. I think Goofy's cartoons are just about the best cartoons there are. The Goofy how-to cartoons are awesome. Too. But I still really like Mickey's cartoons. It's all. And for me, again, we've talked about this on the podcast. I am a big fan of animation. So I always I have a tendency to like the original characters. The original characters tend to be my favorite. Mickey Mouse is my favorite Disney character. Superman is my favorite DC character. Bugs Bunny is my favorite. Star Wars is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I'm never going to call it A New Hope. Kermit. I see so much like connection between Kermit the Frog and Mickey Mouse, and like all these original characters are the ones I tend to really gravitate because I think everything gets built out from Mickey. You don't have Goofy and Donald if you don't have Mickey. So part of my love for Mickey is everything that Mickey begat. You don't have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs without Mickey Mouse being successful. You don't have Disneyland and Disney World and all the other stuff without that core character. Without Mickey Mouse exploding, you don't get 90 years later coming back around and getting Oswald back, right? Like,
yeah, I love some Oswald.
I love me some Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. But have you watched Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, any of the shorts?
No.
There you go.
I just like the character.
Exactly.
Okay. Fair enough. And like I said at the beginning of the show, there's a reason I have Mickey's head tattooed on my ankle. Like, I mean, you're right. It exploded for Mickey, and that's what it is. So. Yeah, I guess this is where I want to hear from our duelists. Like, what do you think about Mickey Mouse? I actually asked this question on our Facebook page, and I said, tell me what you think of or what you feel when you see Mickey Mouse. I didn't get any responses.
I was surprised at that.
I usually get responses from questions, and that one I didn't get any responses. So I'm wondering now, after listening to the podcast, if that brings up anything for our duelist friends. So definitely go on to Facebook and find Dueling Disney Community Duelists. That's where we are. Let me know what you think about Mickey Mouse. What is he to you? Well, obviously, if you're watching us right now, we're on YouTube on video. Happy 100. We're going to start trying to do some of this now. But you can also find anything we do on duelingdisney.com and Facebook and Twitter and Insta at Dueling Disney. Hashtag Dueling Disney. We got it all, man.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. ALF, RED, and her name's Andee. Good night, everybody. Hope.